Hey, Ralph.
Hey Greg, I've been wondering for a while about, you'll occasionally give a particular oil in a class for a class,
Mhm.
and then you'll also have a series of other oils, and then you don't really say in the handout which oil is the best. For example, in the seven steps to immunity,
Mhm.
on the first page you had lantana, but you also had emotional release in there. What is the energetic or the functional difference between those two oils? And why would I choose one over the other?
So the emotional release will help release like the emotional component.
Hmm.
I'm trying to remember what step it was for.
It
Let me
was for
look
the
it up so
first
that
one
we're
where we're doing
yeah, let
recall
me
a
let me
feeling on
look
the
it up
front.
real.
Okay.
Yeah. Because as much as I pound the rosemary, my memory is not as great as it used to be.
Okay.
Okay, so we are talking. Okay, so it's the very first step.
Hmm.
Um, so it would depend. Sometimes all of these are A plus choices,
Hmm.
but sometimes certain ones might resonate more with a particular person than the other. So
Okay.
here, emotional release, because what we're doing here is we're recalling a feeling and then you're moving it up from the solar plexus up to the heart.
Right.
So if you just look at that mechanically, if it's just about the feeling, then the emotional release would probably be your best bet. But
Hmm.
then when we take a step back and go, yeah, but what if we want to go deeper or something like this? Um, Lantana is a really kind of like odd and interesting thing, oil. Like I say odd, but like in a positive way. Sometimes odd is negative. This would
Yeah.
be kind of a positive. And one of the things that it does is it's very good for releasing the deeper head of the sternocleidomastoid, which is a deeper
Okay.
muscle in your neck.
Hmm.
And that
Yep.
muscle is involved in elevating the rib cage, but it has an impact on like the inner ear and brain function and blood flow to the head. Like it does a bunch of things, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I find very interesting about that particular muscle is it can influence the respiratory rate, and it is very much tied to the instinctive responses and your stress response. And so, even though you're inhaling up high in the neck and the throat, it actually will shift around the sex chakra, which is also associated with the root brain, and then the basic chakra, which
Hmm.
is tied to defense mechanisms and things like that. And so you could say that those instinctive responses can dictate how much and how intense your feelings are. They don't necessarily generate the feelings, but they can send a scathing email to the feeling, you know what I mean, to like
Hmm.
stimulate like more or make them like more intense.
Right.
And so the lantana, I use it quite often. Like it opens up the throat and the breath and the neck, but it really releases a lot out of those lower centers and can be very calming and soothing to the feelings. And I'm really differentiating between lower emotions and feelings, because feelings are a little bit more subtle and almost like turn into the emotions. And so they're like the precursor to the emotions. And you could almost say they're like kind of pre-conscious. And
So do I understand you that when we have like root brain, lower emotions and feelings, it's sort of like the root brain is the hardware, and then the 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 feelings are kind of like
Okay.
the end result.
Like let me say it like this, like we will make it like less technical, because it's kind of hard to explain technically. But
Okay.
have you ever had a friend where like you're doing something and say you're getting a job, or you're doing well, and say you're out playing golf. Let's say that you're out playing golf, and the golf pro gives you some tips and tells you how to do this and maybe compliments you, and then they go, why they did that is because he's trying to work you for money, and da 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 da, and like puts this like weird thing in your ear, and then you're like,
Mhm.
I don't know if I like what the golf pro told me, when the golf pro just told you some nice things, right?
Right.
um that's the way the instincts are. Like they put a weird little twist on the emotions that's not always true or accurate,
Mhm.
and they can agitate something that maybe isn't even that agitated, but they can crank it from 1 to 10 kind of quickly. And so again, they're not necessarily what's generating them, but they can definitely make him go good or make him go bad. And when they're unregulated or when they're full of stress, there's so much anticipation of what potentials are that it tends to make it like go bad, if that makes sense. If
Makes
that
sense.
stress if the stress mechanisms in the sex chakra are regulated, you're more able to let something play out to see what's really happening versus reacting. But if they're agitated, you'll react to a potential rather than what's happening. I guess that's the best way to
Okay.
say it. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
That makes sense.
Sorry it took me so long to get there. Like I was
Well,
circling the drain going, I got to come up with, but
yeah.
that's what it is, like if you see a situation where you go, oh, this is happening, and you go, I'm going to see how this plays out. That instinctive response is regulated. But if you see that thing and then you're like, this could happen, that could happen, they're up to this, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, I've seen this before, you just start going to crazy places,
Hmm.
which we all do, right?
Yeah.
It's because that response in that particular situation is not regulated. It could be regulated in other areas, but in that area it could be not regulated. So think of it as like volume control for your feelings.
Okay. All
Yeah, does
right.
that make sense?
That makes sense.
So like when we post something like this, for one, like if it was like a paid class, I would have just said, okay, this is the target, this is the oil. But here we're throwing out things that are potentials. Sometimes the ones that I list are all AA choices, but they do have variations and different personality types that it might hit. And for me, I'll go through and I'll explore several of these. Like I might not do all of them, but I'll do several of them,
Mhm.
and just see which one works for me right now. But in a month, it might be something different.
All right.
So you have oils in your kit and you just kind of pull things out of different kits and you go, okay, I'm going to try this one. I'm going to try that one. And for a long time for me, it was Gilead. Boy, Gilead just rocked it. And over a period of time, it switched over to emotional release for me. And then I've been on a kick now with, personally with just Lantana. Man, I'm working Lantana. Makes me breathe better, makes me feel better. My head's clearer. I relax more. It releases so much more stress out of the body.
Okay.
Yeah.
In general, for the
Mhm.
color oils like blue, gold, green, red.
Mhm.
So as I understand the oils, it's like they have a very specific frequency and they do very specific things, typically for the body.
Mhm.
Am I following this correctly?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. So if you've called out a particular color oil, you're looking for a very tight, focused intent for what that oil is going to be doing.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So if I have blue oil versus Gordaldo,
Yeah,
even though
I would use the
Gordaldo
blue.
is based on a blue oil, the blue healer is going to be
Right,
very tightly focused on some aspect of the blue.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the healers are in a group unto themselves, because there are stimulating colored pranas in the body in ways that other oils and blends don't quite do.
Mhm.
I mean, they do it somewhat, but those healer blends, I blended those in like it's hard to explain, but like when I blend things, there's like different things that I use as like a primer, like like to measure things against, like I might use the spiritual cord or the mental permanent seed or the effects in the nervous system, and the colored oils, the different healers,
Mhm.
they're done to a different like primer, like they're not blended like anything else I blend,
Okay.
basically. Yeah, the only thing that would be close to it would be assemblage point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Good. Well, that helps me understand. Thank you.
yeah. I mean, like in the early days, I thought about talking about how I blended it, and I've actually presented at conferences, like essential oil conferences, like the different ways of blending, and yeah, like it let's just say it wasn't well received. It wasn't like bad, it's just nobody kind of understood what I was talking about. And when I've done it with students, it makes it a little too confusing. So I almost do it like in reverse, where like have these experiences and then we can kind of talk about it. Where if I talk about it beforehand, it's just too much. Even for myself, sometimes I have to sit and like kind of go, wait, what am I doing? Like it's so much information sometimes that it's not helpful.
Well,
Like
yeah,
you
it
know what I
seems
mean?
like it to my, from what I've done, things I've done in my background,
Mhm.
it's like blending these oils is going to be partially you're running on your energetic sense of how things are fitting together. And it's not so much intellectual
Yeah,
sense
it's not
about
logic. It
if
is
I put
not
these two
logic.
transistors together, I'm going to get
Right,
this.
right.
Whereas my energetic sense is if I put these two transistors together, there are these variables that I've got to take into account. It
Exactly. I
becomes
mean, you actually said
like
it
an
much more.
art as
Yeah,
opposed to a science.
yeah. You said it much more beautifully than I did. Like like when you're blending for, like, say, a symptom of something, that is a pretty straightforward way to do it. You're still looking at processes, but like
Mhm.
the healers, it's almost like any sort of form or structure or anything, you completely let that go. And it's like you're blending for like a movement of sorts. Like you're looking at, like, how is this going to move in the body? What is this when it moves? What is it going to generate? Versus being able to go, oh, it's this symptom, it's that symptom, it's this part of the body, it's that nervous system, it's how we shift into rest and repair into action, where that one is just like almost like pure essence, like they're
Yeah.
generating a motion or a movement.
Yep. Movement. That's a good word
Yeah,
for it.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just, yeah,
Excellent. Okay.
yeah.
Thanks.
You're still welcome.